Guys, I am so excited for this. Today we kōrero with the amazing, the inspiring and the incredibly talented Kaylee Bell. In 2023, she won a CMA for Global Country Artist and is the most streamed female artist in Australasia. I am so grateful to have spent this time with her and also to be able to share this kōrero with you. We talked about the importance of fostering authentic connection, the humbling ebbs and flows when you're creating your own pathway, how critical it is for us all to support and lift other Kiwis who are doing epic things out there in the world, and the importance to have the determination and the people around you to remind you to keep going and push past the limits that other people think are there. Let us know what you think of this kōrero. Let's get into it. Thank you so much for your time today, Kaylee. I have been freaking buzzing. I've been a real big fan for a long time, so I'm really excited. So thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you in person. It's been so cool. But yeah, we're all big fans of your journey and just will everything great for you. So we're really excited that you could make time for us. But we'll crack into a random wellbeing card first. So these are just to help start conversations in a different way. So you can pick any that you like. No pressure.
No pressure. Ooh, okay. What's your favourite true story that you enjoy sharing with others? Oh my gosh, we're going deep. My favourite true story. I mean, I do not enjoy telling people, but I do make a point of telling other artists and things now the fact that I am self-managed and independent, which is something that I was actually really embarrassed about for a long time because, you know, growing up in music industry, it was always about like getting signed to a label. It was always like, that kind of gave you like a little bit of like, I guess, ego, you know?
Yeah.
And I never had that, and I was always really embarrassed by that. But as I've got older, I now love the fact that I'm independent and self-managed, and I get to control what I do and the music I put out. And I just think it's made my life a lot more simple, and it's meant that I haven't lost my love for music, which I think has been the most important thing. So yeah, that's a true story.
That's epic. And I mean, that's something everybody respects about you. And, you know, that's the story that we hear often, that you're self-managed and that you're doing this yourself. So, yeah, you're doing a great job.
Thank you very much.
So take us back to your early years in Waimate and travelling to do your guitar lessons in Timaru and travelling to Christchurch to get your CDs and holidays and just growing up in a home that was full of music. So take us back. Tell us about you and your whānau.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like you grow up and you just kind of, that's your normal, right? And you kind of don't even think anything of it. But obviously growing up in New Zealand, country music wasn't on the radio and it wasn't actually very accessible. As you said, I had to, you know, every school holidays would go to Christchurch. I had grandparents there and mum would take us to the record store and we'd be allowed to buy country albums. And it was like the tiniest section in the CD store. And there'd only be like a Shania, a Garth, maybe like a Martina McBride, Faith Hill. It was pretty limited.
Yeah.
And so I'm just so lucky that I had, like, particularly our mother was so into music and we started doing talent quest and country music that she kind of just really always encouraged music in the house. And it's funny, you know, I'd go to school during the week and wouldn't talk about it, wouldn't even, you know, none of my friends were into it. And then we'd be away every weekend playing it. And it was just like, I'm just so lucky that I had a family that loved it because that's literally the only reason I get to do it now. And it's funny because you look back and you're like, sometimes you don't know what things are until they become something. And I remember Ed Sheeran always said that too, you know, like music is such his hobby that even when he's got time off, he's always doing music. And that's like for me as well. It's like when I'm having time off, I'm writing songs or I'm like listening to music. I just love music. And I'm just grateful that I had a family that really just encouraged it.
Yeah. I think there's a lesson too for any parents who are listening, but also kids to, if it's not a thing, it doesn't mean it's not going to be your thing.
Exactly, because you know, as a kid, I didn't ever think I was going to be doing music for a career. I seriously just didn't even know it was possible. And I'm lucky that I had parents again that weren't just like, oh, it's a great little hobby, you know. It's like they were like, whatever you do in your life, just do it properly. And it's so, you know, as soon as I left school, I was like pub gigging every weekend and making good money and paying for my way through university and things like that that are all part of the journey. But I just think that was great advice, you know, like whatever it is, make it your thing.
Go all in and no regrets. That's so epic. Well done, Mum and Dad. So I really love that your tauranga show that your niece made some bracelets. Oh my God, that story of my heart melted, because I can just imagine like my kids doing the same sort of thing for any family. You know, like it's,
Yeah.
So talk to us about how important whānau is to you, and how you take care of that with all the travel that you do, because I imagine that is not easy.
No. Well, that was a funny story, actually. We were home at Christmas time, and Briar, my niece that's made all the bracelets, it's funny because I know this because I grew up in a small town, and finding work over the summer break, you know, as a teenager, female, it's really hard. Like we spent years out picking bloom and strawberries and raspberries and like out doing little farm jobs and random things because it's just really hard to find work. And she was saying to me, she's like, I would love to get a summer job, but there's like, they live in Sheffield, there's just nothing really around. And I was like, well, I will give you a job if you want one. And I just love how now she's like invested in, you know, this whole thing. And and it's just been really cool to have her involved because she's just so enthusiastic. So that's that in terms of how that came about. But yeah, family is everything to me. I don't get to see them as much as I would like. Obviously, spending a lot of time in America and Australia, but you know, I talk to my mother every day, and I don't know. It's just, I think it's always having a sense of knowing they're there and supporting. And every Christmas we go back home, and I just have really strong family ties, and I'm incredibly lucky. You know, my dad had a massive family, and he always made sure every couple of years we'd have family reunions so that we knew all our family. And I think whānau is incredibly important, and particularly here in New Zealand, I think we do look after each other really well.
Yeah, agree. I got asked on a wellbeing podcast the other day how I take care of my wellbeing, and I was like, I talk to my mum and dad every day.
Yeah. It's actually what you're doing, isn't it?
And it's
like therapy.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to, because I know a lot of parents aren't still around for their kids.
Exactly. But I think if they are, it's like, I love the fact that you make the most of it, right?
Yeah, even if it's that quick 2 minute, hey, I'm in the car.
Totally.
Yeah, but it's...
Just checking in on people is really important.
Yeah, agree. Now you have made some mammoth moves. So you've gone Aotearoa, Australia, Nashville, and I imagine there's like a transition period or like a acclimatization period each time, bringing your Kiwiness into different environments and sort of then bringing your Americanness back to New Zealand. So what is that like, and how do you navigate those changes?
It's confusing. I remember I moved to Nashville last year, like 2 days after we'd finished my tour, and we were on such a high here, and moving to Nashville during CMA Fest, which, you know, there's just a lot going on, was one of the most humbling experiences of my life, because it was just like essentially anything I'd done back here. You know, we'd done the Ed Sheeran support, we'd headlined, sold a bunch of tickets, done all these amazing things, and it just means nothing there, you know, like you're starting again. And so I have been humbled so many times in this career that I just don't even know how anybody has an ego. Like it's always just like those teething kind of moments. But with Nashville's probably been the biggest one to navigate. Actually bringing the Nashville thing back into New Zealand probably. You know, I get a lot of like, I wouldn't say criticism, but a lot of people bringing up the fact like, you sound American when you sing. It's like, well, I actually grew up that way, singing American country music, you know. We didn't have a lot of New Zealand country artists for me in my time. You know, there was Suzanne Prentice and Patsy Rigger, but they weren't on the radio. I was listening because my grandparents were listening. So I grew up singing with, you know, along to Faith Hill, Shania Twain, and so it's actually, that is my natural singing voice. And I think there's actually a lot of similarities between American culture and Kiwi culture. I think we grew up in a lot of American movies, and our radio has a lot of American music, and I actually feel a lot more closely aligned to America, maybe even than I do Australia in a lot of ways, which has been quite an interesting thing to discover.
That's really interesting. Yeah. And because we've talked to a couple of people who sort of work in the States and New Zealand, and they've all said like our Kiwi, like our isms. So what we think, you know, like jandals or whatever, like just the different, you sort of to...
You really got to learn the lingo.
Yeah. That's not how we talk here.
And it's like, even in songwriting for a long time, I'd be in rooms and people wouldn't understand what I was saying. So you just have to start adapting, you know, with like rolling your R's. I have to roll my R's a lot more when I talk now because of being in America. Like I'll say something in a songwriting room, and it'll go around and round and round, and then someone will say exactly what I said like 10 minutes ago. I'm like, guys, clearly you're not understanding what I'm saying. So I need to adapt at that point, and it's just learning when you need to, you know.
That's so interesting. Yeah. I got told years ago I had the hardest Kiwi accent to understand from somebody from Spain, and I was like, I think I speak clearly. Obviously I don't, but I think it was the speed that I talk.
We talk really fast here compared to the rest of the world. Is something that I think I've had to slow down a lot.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So being over in these different environments, how do you connect to community, or do you create different communities around yourself when you're there so that you've got that sense of connection?
Yeah, that's been the biggest thing actually, because I started going to Nashville 14 years ago, and I would have moved then, you know, I loved it from the first time I went there, but I was really lonely. Like, it's a hard town at the best of times, let alone when you are like almost seen like a real outsider, you know, when you're not American, you really are made to feel like you are not from there. And so for me, it's been a long time just going back and forward, and that's why it's been 14 years before I actually decided to move, because I just didn't have any like human support. I would say I had plenty of musical people to work with and things going on, but in terms of like me as a person and my core and my soul, I just didn't feel like I had any support for such a long time. And I feel lucky in like the last 6 months I've moved in with some Australians who are amazing, and they're like family to me, and that has been the game changer, because I think the industry is just competitive, you know. It's like there's a lot of things that shouldn't be, but it just is. Particularly as a female, because there's less spaces for us for some reason, and so to make real genuine friends has been quite a challenge. But yeah, I feel lucky now that I have some incredible like Australian friends that feel like family. There's a few Kiwis over there now. My best friend Kate from Amarama down in the South Islands moved over there now too. She works for Zach Brown Band doing a lot of creative, and so we're both in town, so it's like she'll be out on the road and then she'll come back and we'll like have that sense of like reconnect, and then we can go again. So it's finding people that are your people, and that takes time, and then it's coming back here as much as I can. You know, this country is very healing. As soon as I land, I can just feel the anxiety fall off me, and being around nature, it's just, we're so lucky. We're so lucky to have had the chance to grow up here or live here. It's the most beautiful country.
It's cool for me to hear from someone who's sort of spending time in other places. Shout out Aotearoa also. And I saw your friend did the poster, was it the poster for the Zach? That was so cool. Yeah,
she's incredible. So cool. She does a lot of drawing, like charcoals as well. She did the Most Insane Willie Nelson one. He's got it now. It's just been so cool to watch her journey, because she's just like slowly slogged away and always been very supportive like of each other and helped each other with visas and all the tricky things. But we've both always had that dream of, you know, cracking it in America, and so it's cool to have someone to like, you know, nudge you along and to be able to support her as well. It's really cool. Yeah, through those ebbs and flows, and it is a super music, regardless of the country, I think is like, it is super competitive. The nature of the beast, unfortunately. But what I think you're great at is that you're just so incredibly supportive. So like your social media, and I've only got that to go on, but you know, like you're at a concert and you're highlighting people that are on the stage and you're celebrating their wins, and you celebrate like that. So I know your friend did that poster because you're celebrating those things, and I think that's a tribute to you. And you know, though those connections can feel really hard, I think that's a really important thing to sort of tautoko you on, that's really special, and I think that sets you apart. And it will, though the path may look different and those ebbs and flows are happening, like I think keep doing that kind of stuff, because that's where you build that genuine connect. But anyway, thank you. I'm a fan of music, and I love seeing people do cool things. So yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. And so how can we as fans, as consumers, better support our, not just Kiwi artists, but our Kiwi artists who are out there pushing the gate and trying to do these amazing things? What can we do? This is something I honestly think about on the daily, and you know, I look at artists like Maisie, who is put out right now, and to me, she is one of the most incredible songwriters that has come out of this country. She's written for Rita Ora. She's actually phenomenal, and so many people don't know that, and it just blows my mind. And I just think, first and foremost, radio need to actually play a lot more Kiwi music, and a more diverse, you know, range, not just the same thing, but we've got so many, you know, we've got Paige, we've got Georgia Lines, we've got Cassie Henderson, we've got Navy. To me, they should be all over the radio. Because I know that as soon as radio supported me, my life changed. You know, I mean, we could actually tour this country, and then we can come to the towns and the regions and meet the fans and give like kids in New Zealand something to actually aspire to. And it's actually quite a flow-on effect. And so for Kiwis, I think it's also like buying tickets to shows is a massive one. You know, like we get spoiled, we get a lot of international stuff come in, and that's all great, but it's just here and gone. You know. And it's just, I would love to see more Kiwi artists be able to stay in New Zealand and actually, you know, make a living here doing it, because why should we all have to go overseas all the time, you know? And a lot of that comes down to the fact that we need to sell tickets, and we need to be played on the radio, and that's how you kind of build an industry, I think. Yeah.
So start ringing into your radio station.
Absolutely. Like,
Ask
go old
to
school.
hear it. Yeah.
Bring it up and request it. Like, because they don't know. They're only going off data and, you know, Shazamming is another thing that they really look at. People Shazamming songs that they hear. And so there's lots of little things. But, yeah, I just think buy tickets to shows.
Yeah.
That's a great way to start. Listen to artist music.
Yeah.
Hear it on radio. Give it a Shazam. That feeds back into radio to know people are listening and wanting to know what this song is and who this artist is and things like that.
Yeah. Well, my social's private, but I'm always constantly sharing bits of you and other different people going.
Thank you.
Because
Yeah, that all helps.
I love music.
That absolutely helps. It's all like, I think a lot of it is actually word of mouth and like getting back to more grassroots sort of style of things. Yeah.
Right, buy tickets, whānau. We'll put something somewhere about the last of your tour. No, you'll be finished, I think, when this comes out. But we'll keep pushing.
Thank you.
Anyway, on our side, because it's so important. And
it is.
We just love what you do, so it's so cool. But you said that Spotify a few years ago changed your life in the industry when you got plastered up in Times Square. And just recently, I think it was last week, and happened again. And I was so excited for you. So with those ebbs and flows that we talked about, I imagine that you have to have a pretty resilient mindset of, this is amazing, oh no, this happened, you know. So how do you prepare for these sort of ebbs and flows, and how do you keep that mindset to keep moving forward, you know, amidst it all?
It's a good question. I think as long as you know that you're on a roller coaster in this industry, I mean, every industry is probably like that, but for whatever reason, music's, the highs are really high and the lows are really low.
Yeah.
And I really turn to things like exercise. I work out with a guy called Monty B. Who's incredible, and he's been a lot like a mentor to me in a lot of ways as well. And we have a boot camp during the week I go to that it's just great people, and exercise I think is one of the best things you can do for yourself. And sometimes like I'll ring Monty and I'm like, I'm just not in the headspace, what should I do? And he's like, go for a walk. And it's like, that actually helps me so much, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but it's just getting your butt out of bed and going and getting out in some fresh air. So I think exercise is like actually so underrated. I think it's one of the biggest things. I think, like we talked about, getting on the phone and ringing up a friend or your mom or whoever that is has helped me a lot as well over the years. And just, I don't know, I just feel like you've just got to have a real sense of who you are and not always associate awards and things as success. You know, I learned that the hard way also, as a lot of people probably have. But for me, when I'm feeling down or just not feeling like I'm getting where I should, I actually just get back into the studio and start writing songs again, because I feel like we're all at the mercy of the song. Like the songs win. Like that's what I mean about, I don't even know how you can have an ego in music, because the songs kind of dictate everything. Yeah. So I just love getting back to songwriting and finding the magic in the room. That for me is like the best part of this whole process is writing songs. So
that's so cool. Have you seen Cool Runnings? The movie Cool Runnings from years and years ago. It was John Candy. It was the Jamaican bobsledders.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
And there's a line that I can't remember exactly what he says, but he says to him, because they're pushing for this gold medal so hard, and they're trying to all prove something, whether it's to their parents or the community or whatever. And he says, if you weren't enough before the gold medal, you won't be enough with it.
After. It's so true.
And
it's so true. It's like sometimes you find like release days or winning awards, you're like, I thought I'd feel more than this, you know? It's like, well, maybe the magic is actually in the writing of the song and playing live and getting to connect with fans, I think, is actually where it comes back to. And it's just reminding yourself that there's always another day. And another big thing I've learned lately is just like what's meant for you will be. Like, and you've just got to be patient. The amount of things I've seen that I thought I should have had 10 years ago, and it's just like, I wouldn't have been ready, actually. And I'm so glad that I've had to wait and learn how to, like, build this or whatever that is. But I think everything happens when it's meant to. Yeah.
It's a really cool lesson. So what, speaking of ebbs and flows, and then we go to highlight, but what's been a sort of a career highlight for you, and what made that sort of that special moment for you?
Actually the Ed Sheeran tour was like hands down something I'll remember for the rest of my life. And it's not because of the scale or that it's Ed Sheeran. It was actually just the way that he treated us and his crew, and we walked in so innocent and, you know, like we were way out of our depth, but we didn't feel like we were. And that was all thanks to the way that he had set up his tour, where the supports are very much treated with such respect. You know, we had full access to everything. We knew his whole team so well that by the time we got there, we'd been on emails, and it was just like, oh, you're that person, no problems. Like, you knew who to talk to, you knew who to go to. It's just that he just had the best culture. And something that I learned from that was just like, that's what I wanted moving forth. And so we really strive for culture in a big way with my band as well. I think the takeaway for that was just like good people and like looking after each other. And he was amazing. And every night we'd get to go back and have a wine and a chat with him in the change room. And again, he just loves music. So we just talk like songwriting, and it was just really cool and unexpectedly cool, because I know a lot of tours my friends have been on where they haven't even met the artist. And so like for someone of Ed's scale, we kind of walked in thinking it might be one of those ones, you know, and it couldn't have been more like whānau, like associated. Like his wife was there, his kids were there, I was hanging out with them the whole time. Like it was just the best like month of our life, to be honest.
He sounds like you now being in a new space, kind of going, oh my God, I don't know anyone, I haven't built these connections. And he's kind of gone, right, well, when I introduce people in here, we're going to have belonging and going to have connections so that you feel comfortable here.
Yeah, he's almost rewriting the rule book a little bit, because I think he's sort of been like, nah, actually, I don't like the way that was done for me. Like for him, when he was in those early stages, so he's like, exactly what you said, when I get that chance, I'm going to make sure that these people were treated the way I would want to be treated. And he has, and I love that.
Exceptional. That's so cool. And it just adds to your level of, you know, we don't know any of you very well, but when you get an impression of someone, and that's the impression you get outside of it. So that's really cool to hear. Now, I can't even imagine your schedule. It must just be hectic.
That's very
So how do you, two-part question, but first of all, how do you take care of everybody? So you work out with Monty, but how do you kind of prioritise that amongst everything else that you've got to get done?
Yeah, well, we work out early in the morning, so that helps. And then that way, because I obviously managing yourself takes a very different side of my brain than the creative, which I'm really struggling when things get busy, like when we're on tour, I really struggle to actually be able to sit down and do the admin part of my job. But during a normal week, it's actually great, because I go and work out in the morning, sit down in front of my computer for a few hours, and then have the afternoons to go and be creative, essentially. But it's just had to come from a lot of organisation, and again, lucky that I grew up getting to do 1,000 things, being a small town kid, and you know, you played sport and you did musical theatre and you just tried everything, and it's just, I think it was a good way to learn time management, because I need it now. Like I'm down to like the 5 minutes of like things lately where you're like, I've got 5 minutes to go and do this, and then you've got this, and it's just like I think you have to have a real organisation brain as well.
And probably clear boundaries. I'm
learning to say no as I'm getting older, which was something that used to terrify me, because in music you're always told like every opportunity is and it's like, actually no. Like I think if you're not in a headspace to be able to do something properly, why am I doing this is a really big one now. And saying no has actually, I feel like, catapulted a lot of great things, like great success from that. So saying no has been a big, put my big girl pants on and learn how to do it lately, and it's helped me a lot.
It's not easy, so
it's not, is it?
Respect. It's so not easy, but when you know your hell yeses and hell nos, I think that really helps.
I agree. I think that's it, isn't it? It ain't hell yes.
And it always, if you say yes, it's going to take you away from something else. So you got to be like, if I do that, it's 2 hours that I can't be doing my admin or doing my creative work.
For sure.
So how do you get into that mindset? So if you're transitioning in between, you're going from sort of business brain to PR out there brain to creative brain. So what kind of things do you do for your mind to help you get into that relaxed mindset or that creative mindset?
So I like, for example, if I'm doing a show, I really need my space, and I don't like having people around me. I need like 2 hours before the show just to be in my change room. I do my own like hair and makeup, and I find that it's quite therapeutic. Just gives me time to think. And then I have a moment with the band about half hour before the show. We start vibing and have little different warm-ups and good laughs, and we're really tight, which is great, and they look after me, so that's been really cool. So that's like that part of it. I've been getting into a lot of like yoga, meditation stuff as well, which has been quite good, stretching, all those sorts of things. And I think with the admin stuff, it's like literally just getting up early and getting it done, and then allowing yourself to like have the day.
Particularly because you're so creative, the admin stuff must be that, like we're all bad for like procrastinating on things we don't really want to do.
Right? It's the worst.
So it's probably great that
and it just eats
get
at
it
you.
done. Get it done and then get to
it's like getting that. Someone does say like get the 3 hardest things done first, and that has actually been really good advice, because after that you're sort of like, I'm just going to plod along. Like as soon as the big stuff's out of the way, it's like, okay, I can handle this now.
Because normally what we do is do all the little things and then go, oh, well, there's not time for that today.
Totally.
Tomorrow. Now, on release day, Ems and I, who is behind the camera right now, we drove to Hauraki for mahi, and we were so amped to finally listen to your album come out. So I literally am a lyrical genius, I call myself. Can't sing for peanuts, but I love lyrics.
Love it.
And man, you have some epic lyrics in this album.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And if I write, and tell me if I'm wrong, but like there was these themes coming through pretty strong of like determination and empowerment and celebrating above all else all of these sort of challenges, but just to be grateful as well. I feel like those are sort of the vibes I got. So am I right? And are there other vibes that you were kind of going for with the album?
Yeah, you nailed it. It's essentially empowerment was my big one.
Yeah.
And the live space is so important to me, especially post-COVID. I think the biggest joy I've found is playing live and meeting fans, and so particularly have been writing for that space, you know.
Cool.
And also want to play stadiums one day, you know. They're my dreams, is to headline, do what Shania did. Yeah. And so I need songs that reach that level of energy. So very much nailed it. And, you know, a song like Life is Tough that I had with Navy, I just think that very much sums up a lot of, like, for me and her being females in this industry and what we would want to say to the next, like, generation is that, like, you're going to get knocked down, but you're going to be all right. You just got to get back up. Like, that's all you've got to do is get back up. And I think sometimes we just need to be reminded of that. Yeah.
100%. And so many young girls listening to this, listen to those lyrics. Not just those ones, because there's a few. This so good. So good. Now, how do you, because I just love, like I said, I love music, and I love sort of trying to understand a little bit of the creative process, and we're not going to get all that today, because
it's a lot.
It's a lot. But how do you get inspired, and where does sort of that inspiration come from for you? And then what does it feel like when you're sitting there and you start to put it together and you think, this is the thing that's going to hit people's eardrums? This is the...
Yeah, well, that's the best feeling when you find that. Yeah. I'm inspired by everything, like life. I'm not a loud person. Like I am not the center of attention kind of person. So I actually like observing people, and I have always been like that. And so I get ideas from reading. I love, like, if I read a newspaper, or I might get a lyric idea, like my phone is just full of ideas. Yeah. And then often in the middle of the night or in the shower, that's when I always get my melodies, is like always middle of the night. I have like a terrible little soundbite of, like, that's how I first wrote Keith, was just this weird, like, 2 a.m. sort of voice memo. So, or just driving, like moving. Moving is when I get melodies, like when I'm on the move. Lyrics come from reading and observing people's lives and my own life. And then to get in a room, like a song like Boots and All, I walked into that room that day and I was like, I've got the song title. We want to write something like Shania meets Haim. And I want it to be, again, uplifting, empowering, like putting female in the spot of, like, this is what I want in a relationship, take it or leave it. Yeah. And we wrote that song and it felt magic. And you don't get days like that very often. So when you do, you know you've got one. Yeah. I think that's a big thing. Like, some days I walk away from writes, I'm like, that was terrible. But then I'll listen back to the demo, I'm like, oh no, I actually kind of like it. But then some days you just walk out of the room and you're like, I know we got one today. Yeah. And it's just the best feeling.
And there's so many, like they say, you know, like when writers are writing for books or whatever, like there's 1,000 bad, like...
Absolutely. Lines
office,
and...
like room floor rubbish pieces before that. But you can't get to that until you...
And that's a big thing. It's like, that's what I was told years ago. You know, like your worst line could spark the next writer to be like, it all evolves. I've seen it evolve in every write. So I'm not afraid to say the worst thing or the, like, just most ridiculous thing. That you're like, I know this is not it, but I'm going to say it. Yeah. And then someone's like, oh no, it's not that, it's that. And then it's just like, it's such a collaborative space that it's just like, I love walking into co-writes with an idea and just seeing where that goes over the course of the write, because it's never where you think it will. And that's kind of the magic. To me, songwriting is kind of magic. Like, we don't know where it comes from. It's kind of out of our control. Sometimes you're inspired, sometimes you're not. Sometimes someone will say something that triggers something in the moment, and then you've got a song and you're like, who said, you don't know who said what, or it's just like, that's what I love about the process. It's so humbling. Yeah. Like, everyone that was in the room is important, you know? Yeah. It's cool.
And so in terms of decision making, because like I said, you would write I'm assuming a lot of songs. Yeah. So when it comes to sort of putting your album together, and you may have 30 songs, you've got to narrow it down. What's your decision making process? Is it a gut feel thing? Is it that vibe? Yeah.
Very much. And I'm quite brutal and pretty honest with myself. So it's like, if I'm listening to a demo on repeat, then I'm like, okay, well, that's something. Yeah. And I'm also just as brutal if I'm like, nah, that's not it.
Yeah.
You know, so it is all gut actually. And that's what I talk about, you know, when I say being self-managed and things like, I don't know if I'd still be doing this had I signed to a label, because they very much come in with their influence and what they think. Whereas I've never had that.
Yeah.
And so everything I've done has been, I like it, I'm putting it out. My gut tells me this is something. And it's like, I feel lucky that I've had the chance to do it, because that's why I still love doing it.
Yeah.
Like, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeps the passion right where, yeah. Now, your duet with Navy, I flip and love it. And like we just talked about, the lyrics were so good. So good. And so apparent, like I want my little girl to hear it over and over. And
Yes.
she's just got Kaylee's album.
Little girls need it.
Going home. But are there any other sort of like collaborations that you'd love to be part of one day? Are there any artists that you want to collab with?
Well, first and foremost, Navy is one of my favourite humans in the world. We've had her out on tour, and she's just the best. She's hilarious, she's clever, she's so funny, she's great. And so, yeah, Navy was a big one for me because I've been a fan of hers for a long time. But moving forth, you know, Shania, Keith, they're still top of my bucket list. Pink. And that's what I want to do moving forth after this record, is actually just collaborate for a while. And I just love the blend of different artists and voices and styles coming together.
Yeah.
So, collaboration is definitely on the cards moving forth. But Shania and Keith are like my two. Like, that I would love to. If they're listening.
I would love to hear it. So, that would be.
What are you going to write a song about him?
Yeah.
God.
How do we get you on this radar? That's so cool. And we just went to Pink recently.
Oh, did you?
Gosh.
She is, to me, again, empowerment. Like, she is incredible. It's just song after song, isn't it?
Yep.
Like,
just ultimate.
And she's cool. She's very cool.
That's the thing. Like, it's almost like you're here because you like this vibe. This is who I am, and I'm not going to be.
No, and she doesn't shy away from it.
Yeah.
She's just got a grasp on life.
Yeah.
Doesn't she?
But genuine human too. Like, she messed up. Sorry, would you say messed up? She missed the start of a song. And she was like, no. Like,
I love it.
We're pulling back. We're going again. She apologized to the pianist. She says to the crowd, she's like, he's going to have a conniption if we went for that. You know, like, she just speaks it honestly, but just reset it and is like, you know, whereas anyone else would have, like, our heart would have gone nuts. And like, oh my God, everyone knows I'm in a mistake. She's like...
And you would have appreciated that so much more. It's a fan, right? It's funny and it's cool. And she's in the moment.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great story.
Yeah. Now, who are some people or a person that sort of positively impacted you in your life, and what have they done to do that?
Oh, okay. I have two. So my mother, she's been, and my parents, my dad's amazing too, but mum was just like very hands-on.
Yeah.
She's been amazing to me, you know, always kept me very grounded, but also just never let me give up, you know, like, it's funny because I just think that's actually why I'm having success now, is because I just didn't give up. Like, there's just been so many, you know, years of struggle and just like questioning everything, and she's always just blunt in a good way, you know, just enough blunt to be like, well, go and do something else. And you're like, but I don't want to do anything else.
Yeah.
It's like, she's just been such an amazing, role model to me over the years. So definitely my mother. And then Brent Eccles, who has come into my life in the last couple of years. He's my booking agent here in New Zealand, and he has changed my life. You know, he's the first person in New Zealand that's ever come on board and been like, I'm going to back you, we're going to do it. And he's got me out touring and got my music on radio, and has just believed in me and shown me what we can achieve, you know. So yeah, Brent Eccles and my mom.
Shout out to both of them, but I think again that's how us fans can keep helping, and just the community in New Zealand can keep helping, like, see talent, whether it's a singer, whether it's a writer, and just what can we do to get in behind you. And because, like I said, I've believed in you since I first got into it. But you know, like, how can we do that better, and how can we let someone know that your journey's hard and the ebbs and flows are massive, but we're right here because we love it and we know you're going to crack it. Just keep going. Like,
it's funny, isn't it? I was just talking to someone this morning. I feel like Kiwis are the best humans in real life, but online we are so mean to each other, and it's something that I just don't know how we get back to, like, a level of not doing that. But that's what Americans do really well. They actually lift people up, and they do, like, it might be crazy, but it's also like everyone actually kind of wins. Yeah. And I just think Kiwis could do that better, you know, lift people up and support people and share things. And yeah, I just think we have a tendency to drag people down for no reason.
I totally agree.
Yeah, so that's been a big thing that I'm sort of starting to find myself in those situations a lot more. I'm like, you didn't need to wreck my day by saying that. You don't know me, I don't know you.
Yeah.
Like, if you've got nothing nice to say, go and say something nice about somebody that you do like.
Yeah.
You know, I just think there's an element of that we could change as a Kiwi culture because we are some of the best people in real life, you know? And we just turn bizarre online. It's like something takes over, eh?
It's true. It's so true. I saw something the other day and I can't remember what book it was in or what person said it, but they were like, if I wouldn't invite you over for dinner, your opinion is not something I need or want.
Love that.
You know, and he said, it must have been an actor or something like that. And he was basically saying, you know, like I've had to remind myself of that several times because trolls just come out of nowhere. But in New Zealand, I don't know why we do it. That's our tall poppy stuff. We make excuses for it, but it's just not acceptable.
And we do it in all areas, you know, and like I think sometimes the media have done it a lot with country music in this, you know, there's just been like lazy journalism, I've called it, because it's like they haven't done the research and they don't actually know. Yeah. So they just refer to what they've always referred to. And it's only been in the last 12 months I've seen some amazing articles written about country music. And you're like, and everyone wins, you know, no one has to feel bad about themselves. Like people that love country can get on board and like, and it's just like, it's so much easier if we just lift people up, I think. Yeah.
My parents-in-law saw an article written about you, so they knew I was coming to see you, and they both individually sent it to me going, they've competed at Taylor Swift. It was New Zealand Herald, I think.
Oh, yeah, I saw that yesterday.
Yeah.
Which, again, is lovely, but I just hate that we compare females. You know, like Taylor is... She's, you know, she's everything I aspire to as a businesswoman, as an artist, and I just think she is incredible. So yeah, it was a lovely compliment, and it was great because it was positive, but it's like also I just don't like the back end of that is like we don't have to tear another woman down to do that.
100%. I love your messaging. So you said you get inspired from books. So are there any books that you recommend to anyone who's listening today that you've really loved? Or
do you know? Okay, yes, I do have one book that I read every single year, like on repeat, and it's Shania Twain's book, and it's called From This Moment On, and it's incredible because her life was wild, you know. Her parents both died in a car crash. She had the whole classic, because she's Canadian, go to Nashville, was made to feel basically like she didn't belong. Just this wild journey, and she overcame it all. Obviously lived in New Zealand for quite a while, so there's bits on that. And then her husband left her for her best friend, and just the whole thing is just wild. But there's just so many little messages of, again, like what we've talked about today, of like never giving up and her resilience, and she knew that she was born to do music and she just did it. And that's a book that I actually highly recommend, because every time I talk to someone about it, they're like, oh, I've never heard of it. I'm like, okay, well, you have to read. It's called From This Moment On, and it's just an amazing book.
Consider it added to my reading list. So final question for me, what do you want to be remembered for?
I think it's the whole like positivity, kindness. Like I always think that what would I want to leave behind? And it's like, I think that whole thing of like, you can do whatever you want in life. I think that's a big thing, but you can do it with kindness, and you can make people, like my motto in life is to always make people feel better than when I leave people feeling better than when I found them, I think is the big thing. And I want to do that with my music as well. Paying
attention to the energy you leave behind and what you bring into environments. It's so cool. Right, I've got a final question for you. So we've got this book, and every previous interviewer asks the next interviewee a question.
Nice.
So this one is for you today. So if you could read it out for us and then let us know.
Sure. What are your 2 core values? These for me?
Yep.
Okay. What are your 2 core values? Well, being a good person. And never giving up, I think, are my 2.
Nice. Yeah. No matter the roadblock. I love that. Well, thank you so much today, Kaylee. I cannot wait to share this interview with our listeners. You are doing amazing things, and we are right behind you 1,000%. And if we can ever support you, just sing out and we will do whatever.
Oh, you're amazing.
You are the bomb. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we will see you again next time. Ka kite.